And we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Sleep Reality podcast. And we're here today with the great Joel Myers. Joel, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Over there,
Good.
we did the practicing.
There's Dave.
Nice. The mirroring on the thing really works out great. So,
It does.
to just, I guess we begin at the beginning, where we always start asking everybody the same question. How did you get into this wonderful world that is magic?
Oh, so we're starting from the beginning.
Back at the beginning.
I always like to take Michael Amar's thing because I saw his lecture when I was like 9 years old, and he always said people would say, "How'd you get into it?" And he's like, "I was tricked into it." Yeah, whenever I was really little. I don't remember when I started, so I was 5 years old when I started doing magic, and I was always a performer. My parents say, and so we traveled. My dad was a traveling salesman. I would perform wherever we were, and we'd go to very touristy areas because he would sell door to door. And I would perform magic for everybody everywhere we went. And I thought that the only way to get people to watch you would be wherever it looked like there was a stage, you just stand up and start performing. So ever since I don't even remember when I started, but there's a lot of pictures and videos of me just standing on street corners and stuff doing magic for people. And so and now it's funny because now my family, I moved my kids and my wife here to Florida, and I'm taking them to some of these spots that my dad used to take me to. And I was like, I would perform on that street corner. I would perform right there here in Key West, or, these different places. And in Times Square, my dad would leave me on the street. I swear this was, 20 years ago, my dad would leave me on the street in Times Square. And that's where I met a lot of celebrities when I was a kid. I would stand in front of MTV studios and do magic. And I met Carson Daly that way. Remember the VJ?
Yeah.
And I would just perform everywhere. And so that's kind of how I got started. And it's just all I've ever done. So I never really felt like I had a choice, if that makes sense, which is weird, but if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It is the sort of thing that once it gets you, that it doesn't really let go, that it's like a compulsion that you have to just do it no matter what the situation is. And it's interesting that you weren't the typical shy kid who was sitting at home practicing and then struggled to go out and perform, that you were comfortable at an early age just performing for strangers. Were you
Yeah.
always very outgoing growing up?
Yeah, I was homeschooled, which sounds like, most homeschool kids you think are just, really introverted, but I was always very extroverted. I think because my dad always socialized us so much. My dad really got me into a lot of, he got me started with magic when I was a kid. He, took me, I didn't get to go into the Magic Castle when I was little because he didn't know anybody who could get us in. But when I was, 6, 7 years old, he would drive me past the Magic Castle because we traveled all the time. Which made it to where now myself and my kids are used to traveling with me and coming up on stage and and that kind of thing. And I'll throw them in a TV clip of when I'm shooting Masters of Illusion or something, and that's just from me having the same habits when I was a kid. But yeah, I mean, I was always just comfortable, in front of people. I don't know why. I don't know why that was. I think everybody's different. It's like a taste, for whatever reason, But yeah, I mean, I was always just really comfortable in front of strangers.
Joe, can you remember the first trick you did that really fooled people, and you were like, okay, this is definitely something I can do?
Oh God. I don't think I was very good. I think I was a charismatic kid who was really outgoing and who people really thought was cute and would, because I was really confident. So the first time I remember really fooling somebody was I took a sponge that you would wash dishes with and cut it up from Mark Wilson's Course of Magic. I learned the cups and balls, and I didn't master, but I mean, I tried to do really well with the cups and balls with 3 kitchen cups, like coffee cups, and then 4 pieces of sponge. Cut up the right. And when I finally
Joe.
Yeah, right. And then I would, I would do that trick, and that when I started really fooling family and friends and performing at people's birthday parties and stuff with that. That was probably the first time. That and the hot rod. My dad gave me that when I was really little. So yeah, that's when I first remembered it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing those ones that you do so young, like the hot rod and stuff. Being able to transition that into just smaller items growing up and things. Those basic techniques like the cups and balls.
Right.
Once you have that, you can use it forever. Once you have the basics, I think everybody needs to learn those things.
Yeah, I talked to a couple of my best buddies in the business that we talk 10 times a day, really, like Spidey. Like he and I talk about how some of the things we learned when we were little. Spidey's more of a mentalist, but he and I talk about how ever since we were kids, we still use some of those same principles for stuff now, even on television shows and things like, you know, he was learning like liquid metal, you know, he did that on the Apollo, Showtime at the Apollo with Steve Harvey. And, you know, there were a little like a little card force or whatever that, like, you know, I used on like, you know, Penn and Teller, or not Penn and Teller Fool Us, on, I don't know. I used it on one of the TV shows. America's Got Talent. And like, just this one little force that you learn when you're just a kid. And it is funny. Even like those things like the crisscross force and stuff, you can get away with some of that. You know what I mean? Like that you learn when you're a kid, and then now it's just second nature.
Dave is obsessed with the crisscross force.
He's obsessed with the crisscross force?
Yeah.
Dave looks like a crisscross force guy.
It's just, I love how bold it is to just be like, yeah, cut the cards. There we go. Da, 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 da. Now look at the card you cut to, and just it's so hands off that it's almost looked down upon because you learn it so young by people, and it's so easy that people think, oh, that won't work, but it does. I've never had anybody even question the crisscross force, but people think it's too simple to do it, but it needs to be done more.
I do this thing. I perform at NACA, the National Association for Campus Activities, and myself and a lot of the big touring performers who tour a lot of the college market and stuff. You know, Matt Franco was there for the longest time before he won AGT, and that's how a lot of us met. And we would do those kinds of jokes whenever we would be performing demos for people around our booth, and our agent is standing there. And then if one of the other magicians would walk by, like maybe Matt would walk by and stand behind and just watch for a second, and we would just say what we're doing while we're doing it, like say the moves, and people have no idea what the hell we're talking about, but we're kind of in between our normal, like, you know, patter, whatever you want to call it. We're kind of just saying the moves just to mess with the person, you know, the magician watching.
We do have like a secret language that we think everybody speaks. Even I find when I say misdirection, just talking about general things in life, people are like, what is that? And you're like, oh yeah, that's a magic term, not just a life term to use.
Is there a Mr. Direction?
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah, I like to explain to people how misdirection, it can be psychological misdirection a lot of times. Like just, you know, manipulating the way people think is such a huge part of misdirection. People don't know it. People literally just think misdirection, if they've ever heard of it, they just think misdirection is like, I'm doing something here, making you look over there. And they don't realize that a lot of misdirection is psychological. It's the way that you're making somebody think, which I think is the coolest thing, the coolest type of misdirection. But yeah.
It comes back to the crisscross force with like just time delay misdirection, that wasting time is great misdirection as well. But you were talking about some of the TV shows you did, and we actually had someone, we asked the questions beforehand, and we had one person ask, what was your favorite TV show to appear on? So out of all the ones you've done, which one did you have the most fun, I guess, being on?
That's a tough question. Because I liked all of the TV shows I've been on so far, and you know, the reality type of TV shows, my favorites are anything that my friends are in with me. That's why a lot of the clips and stuff that you'll see and a lot of the TV shows that I've done, I in some way I'm with a friend. I don't know if you guys know Leon Etienne. He's a big illusionist in New York. He just messaged me yesterday and was like, because Masters of Illusion sounds like might get picked up again, and we were like, we should do something together. Because there's something about when you're doing this stuff full time and you're touring all the time when there's not a pandemic. But even now I'm touring in the virtual shows, and then sometimes I'll do the live shows, broadcasting it, you know, to the rest of the campus or for a company or whatever. And we'll do it for 20 people and broadcast it. There's something about, because you're always by yourself, whether it's you're on a cruise ship for months or whatever, that whenever you have the opportunities to perform with other people, those are the things that are like my favorite. So my favorite TV shows that I've done are any of the ones where my friends are doing it with me. So like there was this TV show called Fake Off on True TV, and that was huge at the time. That was like 5 years ago now. It was like that was probably the most fun because it was very competitive and it was a big show. It was on this channel in the States called True TV. That it's just a big channel here with this TV show called Impractical Jokers that was on before and after this show we were on. And we almost won that show. It was me, Spidey, and Joseph Rayom. And, you know, we had the best time. Both of those guys would agree that was probably their favorite TV show too, because we all do a fair amount of television. And we're on a group chat that we talk almost every day on this group chat. And we all talk about all the time how that was our favorite show. So I think Fake Off was definitely our favorite. Wizard Wars was probably one of the harder shows I'd ever done. Because sometimes people ask me which one. A lot of magicians ask me what's like the hardest TV show to do out of all of these. And Wizard Wars was insanely. It was not easy. That show was what you think it is. It was like, literally you get these random props, and then you're in front of Penn and Teller. And this was before Fool Us. So nobody's performing in front of Penn and Teller at this point. Nobody had really, except for, I think Fool Us was in England one season by that point.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because Wizard Wars was a while. What's that?
I think they came out around the same time. There was a bit of crossover when they were.
I think so, but really it was like John Archer, Daniel Madison, like a handful of guys had performed for Penn and Teller. But other than that, nobody had really done anything for Penn and Teller. And so that was rattling, like, going on stage in front of your, these guys who you grow up watching and idolizing. And I've performed in front of Penn and Teller a bunch of times now. Well, not a bunch, but I did Fool Us, I did Wizard Wars. And on Wizard Wars, you perform in front of them for rehearsals. You perform in front of them for the actual act several times, because you do 2 acts. Because I think I didn't win it, but I went through both rounds and was against like Greg Wilson and Shimshi. And so, but that was wicked hard. But it was a long answer to the question. Sorry. I've done interviews before, I swear to
God. Brilliant. Loads. I get different things to talk about. You've mentioned Spidey a few times, and you did the show with him on Fool Us. You decided to do that together. Was that always your plan to like do it as a double act rather than try and do Fool Us on your own?
No. Like I said, the biggest thing that made any of us who are like performing together, Spidey and I got along very well from the beginning. We met at a conference, at a performers conference, and we had the same agents for maybe the last 10 years or so. And then his manager became the Surrealist manager. The Surrealist was our group that was on that TV show and stuff. So Spidey and I just really gravitated to each other and had like really similar ways of viewing magic, and we just really got along. Like, I've worked with a lot of people and performed with a lot of different magicians. And Spidey and I just always really clicked. So our plan was not necessarily to do, some of these TV shows together like Fool Us. Our plan was to do it solo. And then we were filming Fake Off when Fool Us approached us. Kind of some of these TV shows, each one kind of dominoed to the next one. So like Wizard Wars, a producer on that show said, hey, could you put together a magic group for this TV show that we're a part of called Fake Off? And then I put together the group for that. And then from Fake Off, that got us Fool Us. And then from Fool Us, that got us America's Got Talent. And you know what I mean? Like each thing kind of would domino into the next one. It just made things easier as, we were doing each show. So Spidey and I, our plan wasn't necessarily to always work together. But like I said, we both are solo touring artists, and we tour all the. It is 1,000,000% our full-time job. To where if it wasn't right now with the pandemic, Spidey was saying he was slammed in September. So was I, like doing virtual shows and then a few live shows. But really, if it wasn't for the pandemic, this year would have been huge live touring. And because we're always by ourselves, that was kind of our thing, was like, let's do more stuff together, when we can. And it's just so much fun going to Vegas with one of your best friends and doing all of this stuff and being creative together with your best friends. And so that's kind of why we've done more together. We were talking to Fool Us about doing this season that's on right now. I think it's like airing tonight, or I don't remember. A few of my friends are on it, so I should know this. Guys, if you're watching this, I promise I'm going to watch you. But some of my good friends are on it. But yeah, we were going to be on it for this season, and then we were talking to them, and the bit we wanted to do was a little bit scarier for this season, because I think they wanted to do it for this other season that had more like edgy stuff or something. I don't remember exactly, but I think we're going to do it the next season. So.
Cool. And myself and Dave do a lot of shows, and early on in our careers, like I'd be doing a tour, but Dave would be a support kind of an act, and that's the way, or he'd be doing a tour and I'd be doing a support act for him. So it was an excuse to be on the same stage at the same time.
That's the biggest, that's the reason for us. We do this stuff together because of that, because literally we're touring all the time by ourselves. We're constantly, it's us solo. And that got into where we could tour. We did some touring together because of, Fool Us alone got Spidey and I a lot of corporate stuff. We did a couple of shows at a couple of colleges. University of South Carolina, there's clips of it on YouTube. We performed in a 10,000 seat arena. It was packed because of Fool Us. We did end up doing a lot of live touring and stuff because of some of those shows. And then Spidey and I even ended up emceeing about a year and a half ago. We emceed this big event in Los Angeles for the Writers of the Future Awards in downtown LA. And it aired on like Spike TV, and like, you know, a bunch of celebrities were there. The clip is on YouTube. It's called The Writers of the Future. And Spidey and I do this prediction bit with the girl who talks the voice of Bart Simpson. Her name's Nancy Cartwright. We bring her up on stage. And then after the clip, we have her like talk about us in Bart Simpson's voice. It was really funny. It was pretty dope. We were pretty excited about that.
That's all you want on your website. Is
man, we don't need anything else. Just Bart Simpson likes us.
I would just have her do my voicemail. I'd be like, you have to do my voicemail. You're going nowhere till you do my voicemail.
That would have been a really smart. You would have thought that we would have thought about that. It was a big red carpeted event with like paparazzi shooting and all of this, and we walked the red carpet and all this. So we really didn't think about that kind of stuff afterwards until like it was too late. And we were like, oh, that would have been so perfect. Because we were just, I mean, we're all just hanging out, and there's after parties with a lot of these things. Like on Fake Off, Jennifer Lopez was there because her boyfriend, Beau Casper Smart, at the time was her boyfriend. He was her backup dancer, and he was one of the judges on the show. And some of these clips are on my YouTube channel. Surprisingly, a lot of the network allowed me to put a lot of the clips on my YouTube channel and on Spidey's YouTube channel, where the networks allowed us to use some of these TV clips, which was really nice because YouTube will flag it, and then you have to negate it and prove that the network said you could use it. And so that's what we did. And so now a lot of the clips are actually on my YouTube channel. And you'll see Beau Casper Smart is Jennifer Lopez's boyfriend, and she was at the after party and just hanging out with us. And we were filming that show in Atlanta. So like we were in the middle of nowhere in this warehouse where they film like The Walking Dead in Marietta, Georgia. And Jennifer Lopez just hanging out there. And we're all like, we have no place else to go. You know, there's no like downtown near us. It's like in the middle of nowhere where we film these TV shows in Atlanta. So, but that was cool. That's where we met like J-Lo and stuff. And she liked us, which was nice.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Definitely when you're like performing on stage, did you find challenges when going from a solo performer to having somebody else who's on stage with you to try and choreograph that to make it work from an effect point of view? What sort of challenges did you find with that?
I did have challenges with that with certain performers, which I won't name drop because a lot of them are still my BFFs. But like I said, I performed with a lot of magicians. Sometimes we've done live shows together. Sometimes it might be like a little, TV deal or something. But the people that I had no qualms with, that we just kind of flowed perfectly, are the people that you see me consistently perform with. So there are challenges. You have to put your ego aside. First and foremost, a lot of magicians, because we're solo performers, we want to be the center of attention. And then whenever we do a dual show, you think, oh, I'm still going to be the center of attention. And you are in a way, but you have to share the spotlight with this person. And so you have to want them to look as good as you want yourself to look, and that'll make you both look good. And so I would say, the biggest challenges or that kind of thing, it just, allowing yourself to be willing to share the spotlight with the person that you're performing with. You have to trust 100% the person that you're sharing the stage with. I'm sure you guys know this, since you guys do a lot of shows together, that you have to trust your partner to make you look as good as you want to make them look. And if you don't trust that, there's going to be major conflict. The performances I've done with other performers that we didn't trust each other, you can tell, I feel like. And so, trusting each other, and then really just, being able to bounce off one another and let that flow. And Spidey and I were always good at that, to where even whenever we'd throw in something that was like not planned, when we did Fool Us, when Jonathan Ross was the host, we did a lot of unplanned stuff, and Jonathan Ross was hilarious. So we would bounce off of him. They didn't air this one part where we were like pretending to be like we were, like Jonathan Ross was like touching our asses and stuff, and like, a lot of it was unplanned, but just that flow. And really, it goes with how much you trust your partner in it. So, yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah, it is something I think trust is big, because from just a performance point of view, that the person isn't going to do something that will make you both look bad. But especially when it comes to magic, if from a method point of view, the method can be split among two people, and you need to make sure that they know what they're doing and will actually get a peek or get whatever they need to do for you to be able to do the finale or whatever. That can be a bit of a concern as well, just to be like, oh, please work.
I'll tell you something, a funny secret. I think I might have said this on an interview at some point. I don't remember, but I know on Fool Us, we were also filming the TV show Fake Off at the same time. And then we were talking about another TV show that was like Today Show or something like that. So we had a lot going on. So I didn't know Spidey's methods for the routine we did on that show. Spidey knew his methods. I didn't know them. So when Penn is asking us, Penn didn't know how we did our stuff because Penn, at that point, we had hung out with them on Wizard Wars. So Penn already knew us. So he was being kind of rough with the method. So afterwards, he talked to us. He wrote to us on Facebook and was like, and said, he felt like, he was like, do you guys feel like I gave too much meat on the method and all this? You can see it in the clip of the actual performance. Whenever Penn is asking about how the trick is done, I'm looking at Spidey like, is he right? Because I didn't know the part he was talking about. I didn't know how it was done exactly because I didn't need to. It was this one little gimmicky thing. And afterwards, I was like, I really should have known that. It sounds really stupid, but I just didn't have to know that part. And we had so much going on, which sounds crazy, but we did have a lot going on during that filming. We were filming multiple things at the same time. We still had the reality TV show crew filming us while we were in Vegas filming Fool Us for the Fake Off TV show. So we had a lot going on. So I just wasn't, that's trust of your partner.
He fooled you, but didn't fool Penn Teller.
Right. You can tell. I look at him. I go like this. I was like, is he?
Yeah, I think Dave's been like that a few times as well. We've done different stuff, and Dave definitely has more trust. Dave has more trust in me, I think, than I have in him because Dave was once a parking cone in a blindfold drive for me. So I was doing a blindfold drive, and he stood in place of where there was a parking cone.
That's a lot of trust.
At the end, there's a lot of trust. I wouldn't have that kind of trust in Dave.
He did.
Hey, we're revealing, we're unwrapping realities of your relationship right now. This is healthy, guys. This is healthy.
We got the spectator to take the random cone, and I went in place of it. And in rehearsals, Steve went within about 3 or 4 feet of me, and then in front of the live audience, he drove straight at me and hit the brakes, right, and missed me by that much.
Wow, that's crazy.
I trust the car. I think I trust the brakes. So
that's good. I'll tell you guys a story in a little bit about this one thing with trust. With that's the other thing too. If you're trusting a partner, I'm in this group there's 3 of us. There's Joseph Realm, Spidey, and myself. And the surrealist thing, I'm trusting 2 guys, and they're trusting. Each one of them is trusting 2 guys. That's even harder to do. We're friends with a lot of the guys who are in the Illusionists and stuff. And, Shin Lim is really good friends with Spidey. And, they've all done, the Illusionist stuff and all that with the touring show, with the Illusionist Live and all of that. We, we like the idea. We like the idea of the Illusionist type of format, but we like it to where we're more like a boy band where we're all tight and we all know each other's personalities and we all perform together the whole time. So it's not we each perform our own act. We all perform together. So when we do the pain game with the spike in the bags, all 3 of us are doing it, and each one of us are hitting a bag and saying parts of our script and that kind of thing. So, I always loved that kind of thing because it's really hard to do 2 people. It's insanely hard to do 3. So
yeah, definitely. Because even when you can kind of play off each other as well, even in a smash and stab or pain game routine, me and Steve have talked about doing things where we flip a coin as to who's going to slam their hand down on the bag that they pick, things like that, just to play up the interaction between you to get the audience going. And especially if you're not sure of the method and you're going, "But this one's safe." Yeah, okay, sure. Let's just do that.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. It's really fun, man. There's something so much fun about doing. I've always looked at it too with my agents, my manager, and everybody who I work with. I wouldn't be able to tour to the level that I've toured. I won Magician of the Year this year in the college market. And I wouldn't have won that. The guys who've won that award are all the guys who were I grew up, they're not that much older than me, but they're guys that I always idolized. Justin Willman and Wayne Hoffman and Mike Super and these guys who, when I was getting into the college market, I was I thought these were the coolest dudes and I wanted to be like them. And, I'm maybe 5-6 years younger than most of these guys, so I wasn't that far behind. But, I wouldn't have been able to do that or make the living that I've made and do the kind of touring that I've done and be in so many different markets if it wasn't for the people that I work with. So overall, no matter what, even whenever I'm not performing in a group or in a duo, when I'm just by myself, I still have 5 people behind me that help me with everything. And it's really a relationship, man. Cause my agent and I butt heads, and we've been agents he's been my agent for 15 years. He was Justin Willman's agent for Justin Willman's whole beginning of his career. To the point where when I started in the college market, everybody was calling me like, "Oh, you're the new Justin," because Justin started doing more television, and I was just this kid who came along and was doing the, and I was just with this agency that everybody knew Justin was with, and so I was like, "No, I'm not like Justin, who Justin's awesome," but I mean, I was just saying I was my own person. But I mean, yeah, it's like it's so that relationship is so important with to have a team behind you, and so many magicians, it looks like it's just you. But I mean, you name any of these top guys in the industry and they all have a team of people behind them, and you have to have that. You really do have to have that. It can look like it's just you, like Drummond Money Coots on his, Netflix special. It looks like it's just him. All of us have these huge teams of consultants and stuff. On the TV show Fake Off, when we did that, we had Ryan Edwards. He does RE handcrafted. He makes like the amazing like close-up cases and these card clips, he makes them for Copperfield and all those guys. And he was our consultant behind the scenes. I mean, he was the fourth team member. He built everything. Like that kind of stuff is just so wicked important. So
I think it's cool in like David Blaine's recent specials that he's showing Daniel Garcia and Azzy Wind and some of the other consultants that he has behind the scenes, which kind of like gives people a bit of an idea of what's going on to actually put a magic show together. And it can also help so that people realize it's not just David on his own. He does have a team of magicians and people working with him. It's always really good to promote that.
That's the thing I always liked whenever Chris Angel, started doing his stuff. A lot of those guys are my friends now, like Banachek and Brian Poindexter and some of these guys who were his consultants, and, they would do the cutaway shots where they're interviewing into the camera. And, it really is true. You got to surround yourself by a great team. And no matter what it is, whether if it is just a reality show where you're just part of the reality show, you're not necessarily the star, or if it is an actual TV show, like, I don't know if Chris Ramsey and those guys have announced so I don't want to say it live if they haven't announced it yet. I'm so bad at just talking and saying things. And then I'm like, and there's been times where like I've got like a gag order. I'm not supposed to be talking about it, and I've said it live. Or like, so I don't want to say it about my friends' stuff if I'm like, I don't know if they're allowed to, like if I'm, but yeah, I mean, no matter what, it's really important to have a really great team and great people behind you, and really always be positive with the people around you, and, don't burn any bridges, have a great network of people around you. So.
Any advice for someone who wants to like get into that college market, or who doesn't have a team but will behind them yet, someone who's starting off, who wants to actually get into the college market? I guess in America is quite a big market. If you got any advice. Yeah.
It is. And you can make, I made, I'd say in the last 4 years or so, 90% of my income was the college market, and you can do incredibly well with it. Winning Magician of the Year this year in that market made it to where 2020 was going to be the biggest year ever, where I could project, what each month, how much I was going to make. When I was in December of 2019, I looked all the way to January of 2021 and said, I'm set every single month. And that's a rare thing. Even for big performers, it's a rare thing to have your entire year laid out that perfectly. Between the colleges throughout the rest of the year, and then the cruise market in the summer that I was on, because I do a residency in Hawaii on the Pride of America cruise ship in the summertime a lot of times, I was set. And really the way that you get going in a market like the college market is to just jump into it. And whenever you jump into it, you can't lowball your prices, so you don't want to undercut the people that are around you. We've kind of unionized in the college market. A lot of us performers, back when Matt Franco was in the market and didn't have his own show in Vegas and all that, we all kind of got together and decided this is where the price points need to be, so we're not undercutting anybody. This is the kind of quality people are expecting. We all kind of, we had to kind of unionize a little bit, I guess you could say. So yeah, getting into the college market, it's really, you got to have the financial backing to some point, because it costs a lot of money. You have to go to these conferences that are college conferences, and they're regional. So they're like NACA West or APCA in Pennsylvania, and you got to go all around the states and go to these conferences, and you have to be seen by these colleges that come there to book you. A lot of those conferences this year are going virtual, so I'm like doing virtual showcases. But like going to those conferences is really expensive. You have to have big banners of yourself. It's really good. I recommend having an agent, in the college market, because I do know friends of mine who do represent themselves and who have represented themselves. And the amount of work that takes and the network that you have to build is something that takes years. So like somebody like Wayne Hoffman, who's one of my favorite mentalists in the world, and he's one of my close friends. He's somebody who I always really admired because he figured out how to represent himself, but it took him years to do that. And so now he has his own agency in the college market, and he represents other artists. So yeah, I mean, just having the tenacity to be able to jump in and do it, and you have to be good enough. There's a lot of performers who I've seen. We're not making fun of them, but the other college performers will look and be like, that we want to see if that's a guy who was doing birthday parties and bar mitzvahs, and then they're like, now I'm going to do the college market. You can't transition quite like that. You need to have more experience under your belt. Nothing wrong with doing birthday parties and bar mitzvahs, obviously. Yeah. I'm just saying you have to go. A lot of these colleges, you're in a big theater. You're with, well-produced. You're doing a well-produced show, and you have to know how to do that. And so I've seen a lot of performers go in and they can't carry it. They can't carry the show. They can't do what this college is hoping that they're going to do. And then they're undercutting the price. They're undervaluing the whole market, making the magicians in the college market look bad. So to really get started in it, you have to be good enough. You have to be good because you're competing with a lot of people. These colleges can book anybody, and they're looking at everybody. They're not just looking at me. They're looking at me, Wayne Hoffman, Mike Super, Spidey. They're looking at a list of guys, and they're saying, okay, we're going to book Joel. Why are they booking me instead of that guy, and that guy? And why would they book you instead of that guy, and that guy? So a lot of those guys who are inexperienced, they say, I'll just make my price really low and I'll get the bookings. And that really takes away from everybody. It's not smart, overall. But the college market, it's very lucrative if you do it right. Costs a lot to get into it. It takes a lot of time, a lot of headache because you don't get the bookings right away. I recommend having an agent in it. And yeah, I mean, it can be very, very lucrative if you know what you're doing. Now, I've been in it for 15 years in the college market. So, I've gotten into a real rhythm with my college agents to where it's really paid off, but it took a long time. So.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's some good advice. And I definitely think the tenacity and also the quality. Because I think magic's one of the only things in the world. I think we've all heard the person go, oh, I don't like magic because they've been a bad magician. While if it's a singer, they never go, oh, I don't like singing because of one bad singer. But a bad magician, people will just go, yeah, I don't like magic. It's just not for me. And it's like, I think that there's a lot of responsibility on performers.
I'll tell you the secret behind that, in my opinion. And I know a lot of performers who would tell you this, and a lot of guys who I know you guys know of who are really big in the game. The biggest secret to that, at least in the college market, and I can say in the college market, the cruise ship market, even the theater market, definitely in the college market, the biggest secret to that is the magic isn't what they care about. They care about you. So if your personality isn't really big and you're not really shining through, and because at the end of the day, when I started doing really well in the college market, I realized they're not booking Joel the magician. They're booking Joel Meyer. They're booking me. You can price a magician. You can't price me. You can't find another one of me. And as soon as that clicked in my head, that's when everything started going really well, because once I realized there's only one of me and that's who they're looking at. And Justin Willman figured that out in the college market. Magicians were getting mad at him because he would book tons of shows with sponge bunnies. They'd be busting their butt doing diagonal palm shifts and all these crazy ass moves. And Willman's sitting there with sponge bunnies. That's it. He had sponge bunnies and would dominate a 1 week conference. He'd be there for a week with nothing but sponge bunnies. And everybody loved him and he was shredding it. And he was winning Entertainer of the Year and Magician of the Year and these awards. And it's because he knew it was about him. It wasn't about what he was doing. And that's the biggest secret, especially in the college market, that magicians go, oh, I'm going to try really hard to do this trick and that trick. And I'm going to, and really it's, they're booking you as a personality. And as soon as I realized that, man, I would walk away without showcasing, because at these conferences you showcase in front of the whole, all the colleges. And I would go and not showcase. And it was really just me and Matt Franco were the ones that dominated this. We figured out that we could just be big personalities in our booth with our agents, and we'd walk away with as many forms and as many shows or more than the people showcasing. And that's whenever it clicked, in our heads. And that's a big secret, because people go into the market not knowing that's what it is, man.
Definitely. I think that's a really good advice, because it is the whole thing. Magicians care so much about the tricks while everybody else doesn't.
I remember a magician once. I won't mention his name, but he mentioned that like good magicians don't do sponge balls, and I just read at the time David Blaine's book, and I was like, there's a picture of David Blaine doing sponge balls for Bill and Hillary Clinton and Jack Nicholson. So I was like, sponge balls are fine. Do sponge balls. Yeah.
Dude, magicians are so like secret. They're so into secrets and so into, I'm going to tell you another secret. A lot of big magicians out there who everybody looks at and just thinks are the coolest in the world or whatever, and they do really well with what they do. They'll tell you that, that's what drives them nuts about other magicians, is that mentality that it's like, you have to look at the technical side. Laymen don't give a crap. They really don't. They just don't care. They care about, being shocked, seeing something they've never seen before. And then there's something about you as a personality and about who you are and how you're presenting it. My friends who have figured that out are the guys who, are some of the biggest in the industry because of that, because they figured out, how to transcend the trick. And that's where a lot of magicians get stuck. And that goes back to what you were saying, David, about how you were saying that, oh God, what was I saying? What were you saying? It goes back to what you were saying about, oh dude, I just totally went blank and I had a really good point. I hate that.
I said something incredibly smart. Yeah.
What?
I said something incredibly smart.
It was right in the beginning. Oh my God, how did I just go blank? I hate when that happens. I hate that. We were saying magicians transcending beyond the trick. It's making it bigger than it's being bigger than the trick itself, and that that's why in the cruise ship market on Norwegian Cruise Lines, I the first year I was on Norwegian Cruise Line, I got rated the top performer on that cruise line. Because it wasn't because of what I was doing. A lot of the tricks I was doing, I was doing a straitjacket escape and pain game with the spikes and, some pretty basic stuff, but it was how I was doing it. And they didn't walk away. The audience didn't walk away, flipping out about, they did, they loved the magic part, but they walk away talking about me. And that's the thing. That's the thing that, if more magicians, that's what I was saying. That's what you said earlier. You said, that magicians, oh my God, I keep freaking blanking on this. And it's such a good point. Oh my God, I hate that. I'm sorry. I never blank, and I'm like blanking on this. And it's such a good point.
The crisscross force a bit, that like with the crisscross force, nobody cares except for the magicians going, oh my God, I can't believe you do a crisscross force. But to the audience, you read their mind or predicted them or whatever.
Exactly. It's transcending beyond that. It's making it to where you're it's about you. It's not about the trick itself. And too many magicians look at it like, it's all about the trick. It's all about the technical aspects. And that's fun. That's what we like. I do too. We all like all that. We all like looking at all that. We're magic nerds essentially.
Yeah.
And even the coolest magicians in the game are complete dorks. We all love going to Disney World and we love Harry Potter, and we're all the same. We all like that stuff. But ultimately, to transcend the trick, it's got to be about you and not about, the trick itself. So yeah. When I think about that point too, I was trying to make, it was a good one.
I do think that it's something you notice sometimes if, for example, if I was doing a gig in a hotel and I was staying at the hotel and I might meet some people in the bar later on, and when people are asking me about myself rather than the tricks I did earlier on that day, I always go, yes, I hit it. If they're only asking me about the tricks, I'm like, I wasn't at it today. I need to I didn't get my personality across enough, if that's what they're talking about.
Yep, exactly. That's very true. Yeah,
it's definitely one of the things. Speaking of other magicians, we had a question come in as well from Brian, who said, "Who is your favorite magician to watch?"
My favorite magicians to watch aren't there. Honestly, I say this all the time. It's probably my friends, the people who I always say surround yourself by people who inspire you, because one of my big fears is losing my passion. When I think it was the Romans, when they would pass away, people would say, did that person have passion? Because passion is such an important thing. And as magicians, we're all passionate about magic. So I'm always scared to lose my passion. So what I do is surround myself by people who I'm really passionate, who help fuel my passion. So my favorite magicians to watch are my friends, people like Spidey and Wayne Hoffman and some of these guys who are. Stephen Brundage is a good buddy, and I got to call him back. He just called me. But I'll call you back. But Stephen Brundage, some of these guys who are, they kill it and they constantly work it, and they have no other choice but to be great at Magic and to make a name for themselves in Magic. Even guys like, and this is Jabrizi is really controversial right now because the things that he says. But Jabrizi is one of my friends, and we message each other and talk and I admire people who are passionate and who work hard and who only see, where they're trying to go with what they're doing. Everybody goes about it in a different way. We might not agree with how they're going about it. I might not agree with how certain people are going about it. But I respect their passion and their drive. Rick Lax is a buddy of mine, and he helped me on Wizard Wars, and I'll always be grateful because he really helped me on Wizard Wars to look better than I think I would have looked. And so Rick Lax is somebody, who I tell him, we don't talk all the time, but whenever we'll text each other and stuff, and I'll tell him how, he does inspire me because of his work ethic, how hard he works. A lot of magicians will look at some of these magicians and say, they don't like certain people for whatever reasons. And I look at the quality of their character, how hard they work, how driven they are. And then probably like the 6th or 7th thing I look at is how good they are at the magic, to be honest. Because let's face it, you name some of the best magicians and they were really hated for, Chris Angel, everybody was like, he's horrible. A lot of magicians didn't like these guys. And then once they got fame and notoriety and did really well, then we're like, oh, they're amazing. And it's like, we were really looking at how well they did. And then we're like, then we like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So even Blaine, people talked Blaine down in the late 90s. They were like, oh, he's doing the bite out quarter. And he's doing the cigarette through quarter, and he's doing the, the photography deck and these things. People said that. I remember, man, when people were saying that. And then now it's like, he's the shit, man. And he's, and he's transcended what we're talking about. He's transcended the magic to this level to where it's more about him, so much so that magicians now get it. You know what I mean?
I think that's something, like, even in Ireland, when Keith Barry started appearing on TV over here, and a lot of the other magicians were like, oh, but like I'm doing those tricks too. Or Dynamo in the UK, when he started getting big on TV, like there definitely is a bit of jealousy when somebody's getting successful at the beginning, and then once after a while, those people go, oh yeah, well they are pretty good, to be fair, and people start seeing why they're the ones who are doing it, because it is the work ethic. Nobody sees the overnight success before they were the overnight success.
If you have the time to even analyze somebody to that level, you're doing something wrong. I've gone through so much time. Spidey's messaging me asking if I watched his YouTube video he just posted. So everybody needs to go watch Spidey's YouTube video. He just posted a YouTube video, and I guess I'm in it. He just said, did you watch my YouTube video? You're in it. I don't know what it is, but we're going to watch it. All of Spidey's content is the bomb. He's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers now. He'll end up hitting 1 million subscribers in the next couple of months. He's killing it. Him and and Ramsey's killing it. Everybody, those guys are all killing. So yeah, I mean, what was I just saying
about successful magicians like Blaine and them when they first get to
if you have the time, those guys aren't looking at everybody else going, well, that guy stole my thing. That guy, if you have the time to do that, you're wasting your time. You need to be working on your stuff, man. I don't have the time to look at everybody and go, that guy and that guy and that guy. You know what I mean? I just don't have the time to even do it. And if you have the time to do that, you need to rethink how you're doing things.
It's funny that you mentioned that passion and keeping your passion and not, kind of being scared of losing your passion with COVID. That's one of the things myself and David was talking about before we started the podcast. And initially we were like, nobody's going to want to talk to us. No one's going to fucking have the time of day to be on the show or anything like that. And we just said we would just start. And now we're like 12 episodes in, and we've had yourself and Michael Amar and Jonathan Goodwin and both great names. So it was just something like that. It was just, we didn't want it to kind of fizzle out just because the year is kind of a lockdown year kind of a thing. We just kind of wanted to get something out of it.
You need to have the tenacity. What you guys did was the right thing to do, because you just need to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do, and then just start doing it. And anybody who asks my advice about being on television, touring, I've toured in front of the biggest crowds in stadiums. I've far exceeded my wildest expectations with what I do. But that's just because I was tenacious enough to do it. And in the movie The Founder, he talks about that. The guy who founded McDonald's said that, you know, talent won't get you what you want. There's tons of talented people. It's being tenacious. It's you know, it's the drive to make sure you get it done, and then being relentless about it, and you keep pushing to do it. And so just don't ever think that you can't do it. If you're good enough, you need to actually have some kind of quality to bring. And once you have that, you can do any, you know, I was doing a show in Phoenix, Arizona, and I grew up watching Michael Finney, and I was obsessed with Michael Finney and just thought he was the funniest, like the dopest magician ever. And he was in the audience, and afterwards he's like, I only ever saw you on TV, and it's so cool to see you live. And I was like dead stone faced because, you know, some of these guys that, you know, I grow up and now, you know, like David Williamson wrote on one of my Masters of Illusion clips because it was his trick that he came up with, and he was saying how good I did with it. You know, and these are guys I grew up idolizing. I mean, watching on World's Greatest Magic, bugging out about these guys, or meeting them on the sets of Masters of Illusion when I filmed that show. And, you know, I'll go to the set, and, you know, Gaye Blackstone writes to me and all the time because she's the EP on it. And, you know, meeting some of these guys like Ed Alonzo and, you know, Joseph Gabriel and just some of these guys who just are just the guys that we grew up watching. You know, to get to that level, to be able to do that, you have to be tenacious, and you have to believe in yourself, and you have to have the quality. The quality isn't, this is sad to say, but the quality isn't as important as being tenacious and believing in yourself and knowing that you can do it. And really being yourself too. Like I've been unapologetically myself. And that's really helped a lot because there's nobody else like you. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, when you mentioned Michael Finney there, just reminded me one time years ago, he came to my hometown here in Limerick in Ireland, and he was the headline act. And I remember him at his table. I went over and I bought some DVDs, and we were just chatting or whatever. And he was talking about the watch deal, and he was like, "Oh, it's in my show later on, but I'll show you now." And he like literally taught me how to do a watch deal from a leather band in the space of maybe like 10 minutes at his table. And he was like, "Okay, go get me a watch," and that was
That's
it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's all. That's great. Whenever you know, some of your idols end up. I can say a lot of people have ended up being like that, magician wise. Like they end up you meet them and you end up being like that. You know, Michael Finney was somebody I did grow up watching and being obsessed with, and David Williamson and these guys, and they're very kind now, and they really look at, you know, they really watch too. They're just like us. We all watch each other, you know, to an extent, and you know, it's a beautiful thing whenever you work really hard and then you see these people that you grew up watching you. But I mean, you just have to be tenacious with it and keep moving forward with it. And then a lot of those people want to help you. You know, you remember Daryl, you know, the magician's magician. And, you know, he taught me my Ambushes card, and, you know, my mom had just died and I went to a lecture, and he stayed in touch with me, and he gave me the Rubik's Cube before the Rubik's Cube was a big thing. And he gave me his Rubik's Cube self-solving, you know, where you just, you mix it and throw it up. You know, and he stayed in touch with me about it. You know, we weren't like super tight. Like he wasn't like my mentor, I would say, but he was somebody who stayed in touch with me, you know, about it. And, you know, so some of these guys, they really are, we all share the same passion, which makes us all really connected. And it really is a beautiful thing.
Definitely, it really is, because it is that thing that, as you said, we're all just magic nerds at the end of the day. And like for us, people are like celebrities. I remember it was actually when me and Steve met was at a David Stone workshop, and I saw David Stone walk past me, and I was after watching his DVDs, and it was like, to me, it was Tom Cruise was walking through the place, the celebrity, but like to everybody else in the hotel, they had no idea who he was. So it's like it's a weird level for the people to be at. To them,
when I've been to places with some of the top magicians, like I remember before Chris Angel was really super famous. He had his Broadway show at the time, but we were out, and he kept ordering saltine crackers at dinner, and that was something that really stuck out in my head. He maybe had a stomachache, I don't know, but like you know, it is funny. I have this tattoo that says "Almost Famous" here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And that tattoo, it's not just like that. It's not that I'm almost famous. It's the fact that any magician is almost famous. They're not. I think, you know, Copperfield, Blaine, they can walk into a restaurant and most people aren't going to know who they are. But they know the name. But I mean, I have this theory that any magician is almost famous, and I make those jokes with all of us who, anytime any of my friends start to get a little bit of a big head in any way, you know, in the industry, or in any industry. You know, I'm friends with like these D-list, you know, I guess you'd say D-list celebrities. That's mean, but I mean, like, you know, like the guy who's the lead singer from the Plain White T's, you know, like some of these people who like, you know, and it's just funny because really at the end of the day, and when any of us start to get like a big head, like, oh, I'm on this show or that show, or I did this thing or that thing, or I hung out with that celebrity, it's like we'll really only ever be almost famous. So, you know, put the things that are most important is to stay passionate about what you do, put your family first, you know what I mean, and work hard at it, and you know, it'll pay off. So
I think it's good to have someone with you, like your wife, who goes, "Oh, you had a good show. Yeah, great. Do the dishes, or can you take out the trash?" Or just
my wife helps with that. My wife helps keep me down to earth. She's very supportive, and I'm very blessed because she allows me. She doesn't. It's not that she allows me, but she has no problem with the fact that I have to tour all the time and that I have to work a lot with what I do. And you know, and as magic geeks, you know, we all, you know, are constantly obsessing about a trick or about an idea or whatever. And, you know, and she's been very supportive. It's important. And it's really a wonderful thing to have like that kind of support and stuff, too, because, it really is. It's not an easy thing to have a relationship with somebody who's in magic, because I think it encompasses every aspect of who you are. It's not, you know, 9 to 5, it's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then sometimes in the middle of the night, you know, and then in the case of touring professionals like myself, we're constantly on the road, and you know, it's beyond just being an entrepreneur. It's like, you know, your whole life is almost dictated by this thing. So yeah,
and you
someone that's understanding and kind of gets that it's not a normal, like you said, exactly 9 to 5. Like actually, I'm going to give a total shout out to Elaine, because Elaine's my girlfriend, and she's pregnant. She's due in February, and I know your partner is as well. But she baked us cookies. Well, she baked me cookies just before.
Well, this would be a good point for a trick. I reach in and take one.
Yeah. We can all take a cookie.
Yeah, sure.
I figured out a trick like that in my virtual show where I have somebody think of a playing card. I'll tell the people to have a deck of cards, you know, beforehand, and I'll say, think of a playing card, and I say, hold up the playing card like right here in the middle of the frame, and on the count of 3, drop the card, and on 3 they drop it, and then it looks like I catch it, and I say, what card are you thinking of? They say Queen of Hearts or whatever. I turn around, it's the Queen of Hearts. Right. So thinking outside of the box with these virtual shows has been really cool too, because that's the kind of thing, like with that kind of thing, it's that's not an easy thing to figure out how to do it, but it's just thinking a little bit outside of the box. Because a lot of people tend to kind of go the same direction with these virtual shows. Anybody who's doing virtual shows, it's easy to go in like the same direction and do the same kind of tricks, the same kind of methods, the same kind of, you know, thought process. Because really, I don't think that you're limited with the virtual shows. I think anything can be unlimited if your imagination is unlimited. So when I first started doing the virtual shows, a lot of magicians were like shitting on it. They were like, this is so stupid. You know, how are you going to do it without an audience member? Dude, I had really big magician friends of mine calling me going, how on earth are you having somebody pick a card? I'm like, it's not that, you know, I'm like, say stop, bro. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that hard. Like,
name a number.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's a lot of ways to where you can do it, just thinking outside of the box. And then once you do, you know, I've done so many of these virtual shows. I think in March is whenever the pandemic hit in America. And in April, I had like 20 virtual shows because my agents and I put our heads together, and I was booked for all of these live shows. And then we just transitioned them and switched them to virtual and just discounted the price a little bit, kind of thing. And so, and then since then, I'm doing virtual shows you know, multiple times a week. And these virtual shows, it's just really just, you know, how can you interact with people through a camera? And what I've found is that it ends up being really interactive and really intimate. There's an intimacy about the virtual stuff that I found is really cool, because generally, even when there's a big group, there's something about the layer that's normally between yourself and an audience is kind of not there. It's like you're FaceTiming a bunch of friends. And so there's a way to where you can make it all professional, still make it a show, as long as you can own the camera like you can own the stage. And lucky for me, I've done enough television and I've done enough stuff live on stage where I'm working with projector screens and a camera at me to where I'm performing at the camera up on the screens. I've done that enough to where it was a really easy transition for me. There are other friends of mine who just in the last month have started doing the virtuals out of necessity. Because I got buddies who were in LA or whatever who were, you know, tearing up their Hyundai 500s to pay their bills. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's not a joke. I got a buddy who was legitimately like, I had to tear up my Hyundai 500 gimmick to you. You know, like, it's like
extreme burden have to get ripped off as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, this has been. I think on the one hand, you could look at this pandemic as it has been a really sad thing for Magic and really unfortunate thing for Magic. But then on the other hand, I think overall it's been a very positive thing because we figured out a whole nother medium that I think will forever be used. We figured out 4 or 5 different ways to broadcast, whether it's live for 10 people that are socially distanced, and then we broadcast it to the rest of campus or for a company, whether it's a pre-recorded video for the company or the event or whatever it is that I'm talking about the company and putting their name or their product in the actual video, and then we're using that. Whether it's just virtual like this, and you're interacting with the group through the camera. There's many different ways to where I think this will always be a medium. This will always be a part of, of our repertoire way to perform. Yeah. And I think the guys who have gone against it and pushed against this new platform of virtual Magic are the same guys who had pushed against, any form of Magic. Those would have been the same guys that when Mark Wilson and those guys were coming out doing Magic on television, they would have said, no, Magic can't be on TV. This is a live performing art. You know what I mean? Yeah. Those are the same people. So Magic, you always have to think outside of the box, and we all know that. And that doesn't just mean with the trick. It means in literally every way that we do it. You have to think outside of the box. And so yeah, I mean, I really admire the guys who are really pushing the art forward by figuring out how to keep it going and go to a whole nother level with it by doing it through this medium,
I think there'll be a lot of magicians who've never had like TV camera experience, who, when they get it now after doing Zoom shows, will be more comfortable in front of cameras and actually maybe understand the technical side more. And hopefully going forward, people will have gotten better at video in general. So show reels and sizzle reels and things like that for magicians, the quality should come up a bit, because everybody's suddenly become a streaming expert or any sort of online video expert a lot around the Magic community.
Yeah, I remembered what I was trying to say earlier. It was about how you were saying magicians, they can't transcend. They can't transcend that. And the fact is, Magic. You're right. What you said earlier about, why is it in music a bad musician? It doesn't mean that music sucks, or acting, a bad actor doesn't mean acting sucks. But with Magic, they see a bad magician. That's what I was trying to say earlier about what you had touched on, where you said when they see a bad magician, they say, well, Magic sucks. And I don't think that's at the fault of the trick or anything like that at all. I think it really is 100% the performer. And magicians have trivialized Magic, and that's a problem. Magicians have made it about the trick, and they haven't, they haven't transcended it beyond, look what I can do and you can't, or look what I can do and you can't figure it out. And Penn and Teller are some of the very few big names who have transcended that, because they bring the audience in on it. And I don't care about exposure because of that. I don't care about the secrets. I don't care about any of that, because Magic needs to transcend and be the art form that it should be. Just like music and acting and all of that, which I don't think it's quite there because of us. I think it's because of magicians. I 100% think so. And I think guys like Penn and Teller should be revered, way past when they die, for hundreds of years, because they've transcended that. And if more guys transcended that, we would have what you were talking about in the beginning that I was trying to say throughout this whole thing, which is why is Magic, not viewed the same way whenever the way music and all these other art forms are. And I think it's because of us. And so if there were more guys, it's a hard thing to do, because there are a lot of people who just can't even wrap their mind about what we're talking about. But I mean, if you can transcend that, that's where I think we'll really elevate it,
I think a fun thing as well, like when people are obsessed with the secrets and like protecting them. But I always find that when you're performing, someone goes, oh, can I show you a trick? And they might show you some basic trick out there. And if they use a method that I'm fairly familiar with, I always try to do a trick back to them using the same method and fool them with it, because it's all about the presentation and the little touches that take.
That's awesome.
Like the key card is something a lot of amateur magicians will know, but there's some key card routines out there that will fry the top magicians in the world, and it's not about the method. It's those little touches that I think make the biggest difference for people when they're performing.
That's great. Yeah, I 100% think so too. Yeah. Well, I really admire the way that you guys are doing what you're doing, and you know, and the fact that you're delving into a lot of that and on a deeper level with a lot of, you know, professional touring guys and guys who you know, their whole goal is to make magic look good. And you know, part of my goal, I definitely can say, is it's not like I just want to look like a magic rock star or whatever. I want magic to look like a rock star. I really want people to walk away and have this perception of magic, you know, because at the end of the day, I do think the art form is something that has always been, it will always be. And we're just, you know, chopping through our little part of history and, you know, using it to impact other people. And in that time frame, we have our own ability to make it look as good as we can make it look. And I think it's a big responsibility. Yeah. And you have to care enough. So yeah, I applaud you boys.
We're just coming up near the end here now. So I'm going to bring up this little banner here, which is the good, the bad, and the ugly, which is a little segment we like doing at the end. We ask our guests to tell us a story about sometime you were doing a performance where it started off good, ended up going bad, and basically ended up being a complete disaster. Some of the horror stories that have existed throughout your career.
I have a lot of horror stories because I guess I've been pretty ballsy because I've been performing since I was a little kid, and I've never really had a lot of fear in front of an audience. I've always felt more comfortable. I'm one of those guys who feels more comfortable in front of an audience than not. So I took a lot of risks. I would say what comes to mind when you ask that is the biggest risk I ever took was probably on America's Got Talent with Spidey and Joseph Reaume, and we do this bit called Phobias, and it was I'll tell you a little snippet of it, and you can see the whole routine on YouTube. It's you can see the whole routine on Masters of Illusion, and the clips on YouTube. It's called Phobias, but the whole thing was Joseph Reaume's supposed to have a live tarantula in his mouth. And he's supposed to have this live tarantula in his mouth, sitting on his tongue, with his mouth closed like this. And you're not supposed to know that tarantula is there. And it's basically in his mouth the whole routine. Now, the routine is supposed to be 5 minutes long. So we had to work with an animal wrangler. And this guy worked on the movie Hocus Pocus, where the moth comes out of the mummy's mouth and all this. And so this guy knew what he was doing. He's helping us with the tarantula bit. Now, on America's Got Talent, when we do it, that show is not that's one of the reality shows that really everything is not planned. Everything is fake to an extent, except for when you're on stage and performing. That part is real. When you're actually doing your performance, that's legit. Everything else, is fluff and reality TV. But that was supposed to be a 5-minute bit, and it ended up being 20 minutes. And Joseph's sitting there with the spider's mouth 20 minutes because we scared in the first part of that act. I tell Mel B to put her hand in a bag, and I say, I ask her what she's afraid of, and I say, what does it feel like is in the bag? And she says it feels like a piece of rope is in the bag. And I make her think it's just a piece of rope. And then I say, that's why so many people have this fear of the unknown, because all you can really do is take a guess, but you never really know. And I pull it out, and the piece of rope is actually a snake. And so that scared her so much that she ran out of the building and wouldn't come back in. She was so scared. And it was great because AGT wanted us to make this routine. They wanted us to scare the judges and to be able to use this scared footage. And they used it for everything, and they used it to promote the show like crazy. So at the that was one of the craziest things that ever happened, because Joseph, nobody knew this, but the whole time Joseph's sitting there with this spider in his mouth, because he's not supposed to be talking, because we say he has a fear of public speaking. And then at the end we say he doesn't really have that fear. You guys should go, the really good clip of that is on Masters of Illusion, but it's on YouTube. If you type in Joel Myers Phobias or something like that, you'll find it on YouTube, Joel Myers Phobias. But yeah, he was sitting there, and I'm looking at him, and he looked so horrified because he just has to wait with this spider in his mouth. That was one of the most unplanned, and I've had tons of unplanned, scary, bad, ugly moments, and there was some good in there too. The good was the fact that afterwards the spider was alive, Joseph was alive. But yeah. Yep.
Timing on things like that are not something you want to go over. It's 5 minutes. Because
Nope.
people might have thought he was being very straight-faced while Mel B is screaming and running out of the building, and he's just very...
And
going.
Simon and Howie and all those guys, they all got a kick out of it, and Heidi was laughing her head off and everything, but Mel B was very scared, which is what we were told. They were like, they wanted us to try and create this moment. So yeah, it was good.
That's a great...
Yeah.
So we'd like to thank you so much for being on the show, and we hope you enjoyed your time. And if you have anything you'd like to promote, or if people definitely should follow you on social media, I'll put all them in the link down below after this, so that in the description that all the social media and YouTube will be there.
Sounds great.
And this will be on Spotify and iTunes tomorrow. And we're also back tomorrow as well with another one. We're doing 2 podcasts this weekend because we're taking next weekend off for Halloween. So this is the Halloween special tomorrow is going to be with Bizarro. So make sure people...
Cool. Tell Bizarro I said hi. We haven't seen each other since Wizard Wars.
We'll do. Make sure
Cool. Thanks, guys. I've had a great time with you guys. You guys be well.
Tomorrow.